Hello, how's everyone doing? So today I'm gonna talk about the dimensions, or we're gonna start our study on the dimensions. And I guess it's only natural that we start with the very first dimension. So this little snippet, this little video is literally just gonna be about the first dimension. Now I know everybody's all excited about all the higher dimensions and how they function and stuff, because humans are ascending. Also take into consideration there's a lot of beings on the planet that are actually descending from higher dimensions into the lower dimensions as well. So it's actually only humans that are ascending. So if you're some type of starseed that comes from I don't know, the 8th dimension or the 11th dimension or something, you're most likely actually descending. You're already ascended in comparison to humans, which is why you're telepathic, and you've got this innate understanding of morphic fields and what could be seen as hermetic science or secret science, etc. So yeah, it's just the humans that are ascending at this point. But let's get into it. So the first dimension is actually the subatomic fields, and it's the initiation of polarity. It's kind of like proto-electrical ether. So what proto-electrical is when photons hit a metal. And when say one photon hits a metallic structure, it will actually generate electrons. And it will generate electrons in the tens of thousands. So one photon can generate tens of thousands of electrons. And as we know, the universe is electrical. So with the proto-electrical ethers that are generated from the first dimension, creates the tens of thousands of electrons. Those electrons are actually then the second dimension. And the second dimension is a field of what we could understand as quantum energy. It's a dimension of primary electrical forces. So, it is the resultant atmosphere of proto-electrical ethers, or proto-emission of photons into electrons. So first you have polarity, and then you have quantum of energy. Okay, so it's pretty much the first and second dimensions. Then the third dimension is the atomic and subatomic, in contrast to the first dimension, which is purely photonic as a subatomic emission. So the third dimension is atomic and subatomic, and science detects that as matter. And pretty much the atomic and subatomic is everything that characterizes the third dimension. So matter is then simply the third dimension, which is the result of proto-electrical ethers turning into electrical quantum energy. And then from the quantum energy, the atomic and subatomic kind of spiral and dance around into matter. So, when matter, it starts to create structure and material, and the structure and materials form through atomic and subatomic particles, as most of you know. So the third dimension is then pretty much start to see, extension and form and creation. So we get, height, width and depth, etc., etc. So depth is actually the third dimension. So it's depth. It's depth. A lot of people, would kind of contend that it's space. More accurately, it's depth. And the third dimension is pretty much where the ego, or fixed perception, comes into the equation. So and when the ego and stuff comes into the equation, we kind of get, biological forms, from the ego. The ego itself is actually shaping subatomic and atomic electrical impulses. And yeah, so the fourth dimension is then, it's also atomic and subatomic, though with a lower level of valence, or a valence of less frequency. Valence refers to the cohering and adhesive power of a material structure. So the higher the valence, the denser the structure. Therefore, the lower the valence, the less dense the structure. Which is why when you hit like 4D and you're in the astral plane and stuff like that, you can, it's way more malleable. You can kind of like shift stuff around. You can temporal jump. You can create electricity out of your hands. You can do all that type of cool shit. So pretty much what all this means is, in the fourth dimension, we are dealing fundamentally with ether. So the fourth dimension, the valence of the fourth dimension is somewhere around 8 to 12 times lower, and pretty much this means that the atoms and molecules are spread out further than they are in the third dimension. Yeah, so pretty much, from the first dimension to the fourth, we're dealing a lot with subatomic and atomic electrical ethereal substrate, and the formation of biological life, formations from quite dense structure to things with less valency, and therefore less density. Not everything in the third and the fourth dimension is life, but life does occur in the third and fourth dimension. What life actually is light in motion. So, from the proto-electric or proto-emissions of photons into electrons, that's light into life. And that's what life actually is. So what an electron is pretty much an evolved form of polarity. It's primal electrical charges. It appears that time and space only correlate with the first and fourth dimensions, which is quite an interesting concept. So what occurs in the fifth dimension is, because the level of valency and the proto emissions go through kind of like discharges, and the valency actually reduces as we ascend up into different dimensional levels. The fifth dimension is just pure electronic, and it is associated with the higher self. This is the spirit guide, or the god or guardian angel that a lot of people associate with God. And what's very interesting is that when we ascend up through the different dimensions, we seem to interact with different aspects of ourselves. Like I remember back in 2011. When I ascended, I ascended. Well, I was already ascended because I'm an indigo. So I descended. But so when I activated, I hit I think I hit six dimensions, and then through meditation over the years, I've been able to reach all the way up to the 8th. But as my DNA activated on 11/11/11, I actually quantumly. It was almost like a quantum inflection, where I was interacting with multiple aspects of myself on different dimensions, and I think it was the fifth dimensional aspect that may have dropped the Melchizedek catalyst in me. Quite possible, it would have been the fifth dimensional aspect, because Melchizedekian consciousness resides in the fifth dimension. Yeah, so the fifth dimension is pure electronic. It's yeah, completely unified in that aspect as well, where, you know, the first dimension is, you know, a primal polarity. So reincarnation also only occurs, you know, first, second, third, fourth dimensional atomic and subatomic levels. When we start hitting the electronic level of the fifth dimension, reincarnation no longer exists. And yeah, you're somewhat, yeah, immortal. I mean, you're already eternal. Immortal means that, you know, if you die or something like that, you know, you retain the memory of your past lives. So yeah, the transition, you know, into different bodies, which doesn't actually even happen there either, because it's electronic and the valency is so low that you're literally just shape shifting. Like, yeah. So yeah, the memory is retained, you know, consistently. There's no break in consciousness in that way. So yeah, pretty much what we're looking at in the first dimension is photons turning into electrons, and electrons are the primal resounding polarity, where photon is not necessarily, I mean, photon is polarized insofar as it like as a particle, you know, it's a particle, and then it travels as a wave, and then wherever it travels to, it arrives at a certain location, and the location where it arrives, it becomes a particle again. I mean, we could call that polarity, shifting polarities. But yeah, so the first dimension being subatomic and subatomic, sorry, is pretty much because, yeah, the subatomic photon turns into the electron, and then from there we see the formation of matter, and depth comes into the equation. So pretty much, as well as we understand it, the dimensions are associated with the DNA and the chakras. The chakras are the DNA. So yeah, pretty much when the DNA gets activated, you kind of have access to these other dimensions that we just spoke about. Now, there are many amazing different skills that transpire as well in the higher dimensions. I know I said we were only going to talk about the first dimension, but I think you guys will probably get a little bit bored with it, especially if you're listening to this and you're in this group. You probably understand it, you know, to a certain degree. I mean, proto emissions, you know, very standard, and then the formation of matter as depth, etc. is, it, you know, it speaks for itself. So there are various paranormal powers that come online when you activate these, you know, different DNA strands and stuff like that. So say you're hitting the fourth dimension, there's a lot, you know, you're hitting astral levels, and, you know, dreaming kind of stops. Like, you still dream, but you're not dreaming. You know what I mean? Like, you're awake. Like, I just lie in bed and close my eyes, and my astral body is just like bing bing. Alright, my consciousness is now in the astral body. Like, it's and it's consistent. There's no transition. It's not like I fall into unconsciousness and then I'm astral projecting. It's just like I just close my eyes and then just bang, I'm just, you know, I'm just fucking in the in the astral. Astral is pretty cool, man. Like, you know, bilocation, flying around, stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the fifth dimension's awesome as well. If you've ever had any sessions or healings with me, you would have felt the heat and the electricity and stuff like that. That's the electronic monad of the fifth dimension coming through. And if you've actually done some of the heavy work with me, like the Merkaba field transmissions and stuff like that, you would actually be feeling the Paradisian energy. I think there's a few of you in this group who have done those sessions with me. If you would like to, it's about $500, but that's Paradisian energy. We're working with 6-dimensional energy there, and the six dimensions are very, very interesting dimension to get into, but we'll talk about that later on. So we'll keep it quite basic. So clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, etc. These are all 4th dimensional abilities. Even interdimensional communication, that comes on in the 5th dimension. So if you are having interdimensional communication with, let's say, what we could call extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, temporal terrestrial life, you're most likely hitting 5D at that point, but your body would feel completely electrified a lot of the time. You'd have complete control over the Kundalini energy. You'd be able to transmit it to other people. You'd be pretty much telepathic as well. I mean, I'm telepathic, but in the corporeal body, it's a little bit difficult because I'm not from this world, so I'm still trying to. I'm studying the DNA. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do it properly. Like, I know the technique, I know the science behind it, etc. But yeah, it's we're all learning. Now, when levitation is also a thing as well that occurs when you activate certain strands of DNA, which is actually, this occurs when there's an inversion of polarity within the magnetic fields. And again, this is a 5th dimensional phenomenon. This occurs because you need electronic depolarization of energetic fields. With levitation, there's also, with that, materialization, or the appearance and disappearance of objects and stuff like that can occur. I've seen this happen before. It actually wasn't myself, it was my ex-girlfriend. I don't know what she was. She was actually she was on the dark side, which is quite interesting. Makes you think about the higher dimensions, and if we're actually going to a more harmonious world when we ascend. I mean, some of us definitely are, for sure, but yeah, I mean, like, don't get it twisted, man. I've seen dark magicians in quite high dimensions. I've never come across one that's in a higher dimension than me. I have seen some of them that have abilities that I don't have. However, the electronic monad that I have is actually just much stronger than the multiple abilities that they have. They seem to develop all these abilities. They get trained in it, and stuff like that. Us as adepts, we have to learn through discipline and everything like that how to develop these abilities, and that's much better. That's way more better, because then we don't get consumed by them and stuff like that, and we actually learn how to control them. So even though the dark side do have probably a lot more abilities than us, our frequencies, our oscillations, and our electrical capacities completely outweigh them. So it doesn't even matter if they can utilize materialization and stuff like that. But yeah, mediumship as well, that's obviously 4th dimensional. So mediumship, mediumship is pretty much just the interaction between the conscious or unconscious, so the higher self and the one who hears the messages, etc. It can be 4th and 5th dimensional. Mediumship isn't something that I really care too much about. Yeah, telepathy is 5th dimensional, as I said before. Telekinesis is actually 4th dimensional. So telekinesis is pretty much a lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna make this fucking lighter levitate or something like that. But telekinesis is more like, you can control scalar fields, electromagnetic fields, stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, you can probably make objects and stuff levitate, but you probably have to sit there and meditate for every day for like 5 to 10 days or something, until something like that can happen. But yeah, very real. Yeah, quite easy to do. You just need to build up the energy to do it. So yeah, so the dimensions are, again, they're associated with the DNA and the chakras, and the chakras down the central nervous system. More accurately, they're actually associated with anatomical points in the brain. There's different mental spheres in your brain, and as a chakra spins, it's associated with a part of the anatomical structure. It's associated with a part of your brain, and chemicals start releasing from that part of the brain into the organ that the chakra is associated with. The dimensions that I've just explained, pretty much just 1 through 5, because they're pretty much on one side of the spectrum. I mean, the 6th dimension is paradise. It's paradisian consciousness, and it's made up of what we could call angels that are kind of like all-knowing, omnipresent, omniscient, etc., etc. It's a nice indigo color there. We will be reaching there as well. Some of us, or some of you humans, will be reaching there soon as well. Yeah, there's and within each dimension as well, there's a series of planes in the dimensions as well. So it's not just like, there's, with mirror dimensions, for example, there's 13 dimensions, except the 7th dimension doesn't have mirrors. It's actually ultimate resonance, but the other 13 are mirror dimensions. So the first dimension mirrors the 13th, the second dimension mirrors the 12th, etc., etc., and then the 7th dimension is actually what we could call the superstring. Yeah, and then there's 5 harmonic dimensions, there's 9 time dimensions, etc., etc. It goes on, and then each dimension has a set of planes associated with it as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could even see the 3rd dimension. You got the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom, the elemental kingdom, etc., etc. So yeah, each dimension is made up of different planes as well. You can look into that. You can find it pretty much anywhere. A lot of esoteric schools teach it. But yeah, pretty much, as a recap, 1st dimension is subatomic, proto-electric, or where proto-emissions take place, where photons turn into electrons, and then we see the primordial polarity taking place that then forms into matter as it starts to take shape, and then we get biological life. And then the 4th dimension is pretty much formation that is more malleable, as it has lower valency. And then the 5th dimension is pure electronic monad. And then the 6th dimension, as I said, it's paradisian. It's where every individual has access to all information, past, present, future, multi-universal, crazy, proto-electronic, quantum, freaking, intense. And then the 7th dimension is a superstring. Alright, so yeah, that pretty much sums up dimensions, I guess, 1 to 7. 7th dimension is a very extensive dimension. I'm going to do a whole recording purely on the 7th dimension. And then, so for the next few weeks, I'll be explaining the dimensions. We'll go further and further in and explain them, and also when we're explaining these dimensions as well, just receiving this information itself can activate certain abilities within you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions or you have anything to add, just let me know, let everyone know in the group, and I will speak to you guys in the next few days. Thanks for listening.